Today we are going to be going over our Week 14 predictions for the 2024 NFL season. And before we get into these predictions, looking back at last week, we had a 12-4 record, much better than our last 3 or so weeks, bringing our total record up to 132-63. First game we have is the Thursday night game, one of the best games of the week. We have the 9-3 Packers taking on the 11-1 Lions. Lions are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Now, the Lions have been in a lot of close games recently. They barely beat I guess not a lot of close games, but they barely beat the Bears on Thanksgiving. Could just been because the Lions on Thanksgiving. And then they didn't beat the Colts by as much as maybe people thought. They only beat them by, I think, 18 points. And their defense is banged up. They have a lot of injuries on the defense. I think they signed Jamal Adams and I think maybe even Quan Alexander. But who knows if those guys are even going to play, and they're probably free agents for a reason. And so their offense is going to have a tough time stopping this Packers. Their defense is going to have a hard time stopping this Packers offense, who has been on fire recently, scoring 30 points versus the Dolphins, 38 versus the Niners, and then 20 versus the Bears. So I think this could be a very good game, and I actually think the Packers have a good chance of winning because I think their defense can contain the Lions enough. And I'm actually going to go with the Packers winning this one 31-27 over the Lions in another great Thursday night game. I just think their offense is going to be too much for the Lions defense with how their defense is banked. I know their defense has been great all year, but they don't have the best pass defense, and I think Jordan Love and that passing attack can put up enough points to win that game. Another divisional matchup, we have the 3-9 Jets, who are 6-point underdogs versus the 5-7 Dolphins. This is an interesting game because the Dolphins' offense throughout the season has not been good, but that was mainly without Tua. Since Tua's come back, especially in the not against the Packers, but against the Patriots, Tua played great, and they didn't play great against the Packers, but it was cold out, so that's why. Now they're in Miami, and the Jets' defense hasn't been great, as that is their strong suit is their defense, and they haven't been great on defense, and their offense has been terrible, and the Dolphins' defense actually has been very good. So I don't think the Jets have much of a chance in this game, but I do think it'll be close. I just think the Dolphins will have the slight edge, and I have them winning 24-21 over the Jets. Next is the Kirk Cousins revenge game. I don't think it's a revenge game. I think both sides moved on, but anywho, it's the Kirk Cousins Bowl. We got the 6-6 Falcons taking on the 10-2 Vikings. Vikings 5.5-point favorites. Speaking of teams in close games recently, they've been in a lot of close games. Beat the Cardinals by 1, beat the Bears by 3 in overtime. They did beat the Titans by 10, but then they beat the Jags by 5 and they beat the Colts by 8. That's what they've done on their 5-game win streak they're currently on. They went on a 5-game win streak, then they lost 2 in a row, and now they won 5 in a row again. So maybe they're going to start another loss streak here. But Kirk Cousins did not look good against a very good Chargers defense. And now he goes against another good defense in the Vikings. And the one struggle I think the Vikings have had has been their offense. Sam Darnold's he hasn't went back to what he has throughout his NFL career, but he's not playing like he did at the beginning of the year. But I think if there's a team to run into, it's the Falcons and their poor defense, especially their poor pass rush. Sam Darnold should have all the time in the world. And I think that's going to give him I think that's going to allow them to put up too many points for the Falcons to match versus this good Vikings defense. So I think the Vikings win this one, and I have them winning 27-20 over the Falcons. Next game is the Saints and the Giants. The Saints are 4-8, taking on the 2-10 Giants. Saints are 4.5-point favorites. This is a game that I think I'm confident in picking the Saints in this one. I know they lost Taysom Hill for the season, but the Giants just aren't a good team. They may be the worst team in the league. And the Saints, although they haven't put up 40 points and done what they did at the beginning of the year, ever since Darren Rizzi took over, they've been a much better team, and they can compete in most games. And I think when you're a team like the Saints, who are just good or like okay, and you are competing in most games, you will beat the Giants. And I just think Kamara's going to have too good of a game. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Kamara. And I don't know if Drew Lock can do much. So I'm going to go Saints winning 24-20 over the Giants. Next game is I think the biggest spread of the week. We have the 3-9 Panthers as 12.5-point underdogs versus the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know Bryce Young has looked very good this last month or so. And the Panthers themselves have just been a lot more competitive, losing by 3 to the Chiefs and losing by 3 to the Bucs. But the Eagles are potentially the best team in football. They've won 8 games in a row. Earlier in the year, they were winning and losing games closely. Their closest margin of victory has been 4 points to the Browns in the first game of the win streak. Then they beat the Jags by 5 and the Ravens by 5, and everything else has been almost double digits or more. They're beating teams convincingly. They have one of the best defenses in football. Saquon Barkley potentially might win MVP. And although I like what Bryce Young's doing and I like how the Panthers are competing in games, I think they can keep it close a little bit because the Eagles tend to start slow. But I think eventually Saquon's just going to tear apart that awful run defense of the Panthers, and I think they're going to pull away. With that being the case, this is going to be my lock of the week. I have the Eagles winning 31-21 over the Panthers. But I do think the Panthers can score up points because Bryce is playing great, but I just don't think it'll be enough. Next, we have the 3-9 Browns taking on the 9-3 Steelers. Steelers are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I know the Browns beat the Steelers early on in the year on that Thursday night game, but I just think, especially with what I saw from Russell Wilson and the Steelers last game, I know their defense didn't play great. Some of that was a little bit of like the Bengals are scoring even though they're really not going to win. I just don't see Mike Tomlin losing to the Browns twice in the same season, especially with this good of a team they have and especially with how the Browns haven't played great. And the Browns, the reason they won the game last time the Steelers is because their defense played great, but their defense just let Bo Nix torch them. And with how the Steelers looked against a bad defense in the Bengals, I think they have that momentum. And if the Browns play similar to how they did against the Broncos, I think the Steelers win this game. And I'm going to go Pittsburgh winning 28-20 over the Browns. Now we have Raiders, Buccaneers. The 2-10 Raiders are 6.5-point underdogs versus the 6-6 Buccaneers. Raiders coming off of that close loss to the Chiefs, although it is the Chiefs, so every game with them is going to be close. And they just failed to get that win. The Raiders are another team that's just not great. They don't really have much offensively or defensively. It's pretty much just Brock Bowers. And if you're in a game if you're in a shootout with the Bucs and Baker Mayfield, you're probably not going to win, especially if you don't have a good offense. I think they'll be able to put up points. Aiden O'Connell played pretty good against the Chiefs. They actually played very good against the Chiefs. But I just don't think they have the defense, and I think Baker will have himself a very good day. And I have the Bucs winning 30-20 over the Raiders, especially with how Baker played last week against the Panthers. I don't think he's gonna let that be the case again, and I think he'll have a great game. Next, we have the 2-10 Jags taking on the 3-9 Titans. Titans are 3.5-point favorites in this one. No Trevor Lawrence. It's Mac Jones, even though I was somewhat impressed with what I saw from Mac Jones late in that game versus the Texans. However, Will Levis has played pretty good football recently. They didn't play great versus the Commanders, although they made the game close at the end. They made the game kind of close at the end, or like somewhat towards the end. But I think it's going to come down to which defense can, I guess, limit the other offense, even though the offenses aren't great. And I just like the Titans defense a lot better than the Jags defense. And I think they'll hold the Jags to a few enough points for Will Levis to score more. And I think the Titans win this one 21-17 over the Jags. We have another divisional game here. We have the 7-5 Seahawks taking on the 6-6 Cardinals in what has been the weirdest division I've seen in a while. The NFC West is crazy. It's like the NFC South or whatever from like 2 years ago, but good. Like the teams are good, and they're just beating each other. That's why like they all have like the same record. You can't. It's almost impossible to predict who wins the game, but when two teams in this division play, it's a very even game. Both teams are very similar. They match up pretty evenly. The Seahawks got the best of the two teams last time they played, winning 16-6. The Seahawks are playing very good football recently, and again, this is a 50-50 to be honest. But I'm feeling Seattle here, 24-23 over the Cardinals. Now we have Bills-Rams. 10-2 Bills taking on the 6-6 Rams. Bills 3.5-point favorites, which is surprising me because they're another team you can make a case for as the best team in the league. And I just think the Bills are just too good for the Rams. I do think the Rams can keep it close. They are a good football team. But I just think the Bills just have too much talent, and I don't think the Rams can overcome that talent differential enough. So I have the Bills winning a close one, 30-27, very high-scoring game over the Rams. Now we have the Bears-Niners. This is an interesting game. Bears coming into this week with their first game with new interim head coach Thomas Brown taking on the Niners. Niners are still 4.5-point favorites despite not looking great the last couple weeks, or the season actually. And I know they've been injured. But one thing about these interim head coaches is when they coach their first game, the team tends to either win or play very well. So I think this will be a very close game because the Niners defense honestly hasn't been that good. So I think if Caleb could have the game he did against the Lions, I think he can have a good game against this Niners defense. And then this Bears defense, I think, can limit Brock Purdy enough. And because of that, because of the interim head coach, this is actually going to be my upset of the week. Bears beating the Niners 24-20 for my upset pick of the week. Sunday night, we have the 8-4 Chargers taking on the 11-1 Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 4-point favorites in this game. I know what we want to all say about the Chiefs. They keep winning these close games, and they're like one of the luckier 11-1 teams. But one thing about the Chiefs is they don't typically lose to their division. I think it will be a somewhat low-scoring game. Two very good defenses playing each other. Although the Chiefs' defense hasn't looked great recently, but they're still a good defense overall, great coaching. So I do think it will be a close, low-scoring game. But honestly, when it comes to the division, when it comes to the AFC West, I tend to always pick the Chiefs. They always, especially the Chargers. Chiefs-Chargers always give you a good game. But I think the Chiefs end up winning this one, 23-17 over the Chargers. Lastly, we have the Monday night game between the Cincinnati Bengals, who are at 4-8, and the 5-7 Dallas Cowboys. Bengals going into this one as 5.5-point favorites. Bengals offense obviously continues to be elite, one of the best offenses in all of football, and the Cowboys defense continues to not be very good. And then on the flip side, both the Bengals defense and Cowboys offense continue to struggle, although the Cowboys offense with Cooper Rush have not looked half bad the last 2 weeks. So I do think they can put up points against this Bengals defense. But I just think when it comes to Joe Burrow and this offense, if they can put up the points they did against Pittsburgh, what was it? If they can put up 38 points versus the Steelers, I think they can put up 30-plus versus the Cowboys. And I don't know if the Cowboys could put up 30-plus themselves. So I'm going Bengals 31-24 over the Cowboys. And that will conclude my week predictions for Week 4 of the 2024 NFL season. As always, in the comment section, let me know some of your picks. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.